Hey guys, so we're going to go through your lesson 5 notes, specifically the front, where we're talking about two-way tables. I briefly introduced it yesterday. Obviously, this is not ideal to continue looking at it through a video, but hey, we're going to roll with it and do our best. So I expect you guys to do the same. Just kind of go with it, do your best. We'll cover it when I see you next face to face. So two-way tables, look here in your notes, maybe jot down this little sentence here at the top or at the bottom. There's like a decent amount of space. But two-way tables are useful when there are two different sample sizes or like two different groups that you're looking at. So the example we're going to look at is boys and girls. I was going to like poll the class and like ask you guys, do you get allowance? Do you not get allowance? And then use the data from like the class specifically, but obviously I'm not with you, so that makes it a little bit harder. So again, we're just gonna go with it. If you need to pause, do that, but maybe like write the what I've got going on right here on your notes, and I'm gonna fill out the table and kind of explain to you how you fill it out. So I'm gonna think about my 7th period class in particular. There are 22 kids in that class. So like your total in the bottom right corner, that's like the grand total. There's 22 kids in that class. So let's say I gathered some information. Write these numbers in your table too. Okay, I'm going to change this. Let's say I asked all the boys. There's 15 boys in that class. Let's say that 10 of them get allowance, and let's say 5 of them said that they don't get allowance. Okay, so fill those numbers in. So I can total those numbers up. I can just like add along that row there. There's 15 boys. And that is true. There are 15 boys in that class. Okay, there's 7 girls in that class. And let's say like I pulled the class, how many girls get allowance? 3 said yes, and let's say 4 said no. And then I can total those numbers. There's 7 girls in that class. Okay, if you kind of step back and look at this, you can add the total here. Okay, boys 15, girls 7, there's 22, 15 plus 7. You can also total down the columns. So how many kids in the class get allowance? Well, it looks like 13 do, 10 boys and 3 girls, and 9 kids do not get allowance. Okay, get those numbers in your chart. And you can add along the row here, 13 plus 9. Okay, that's 22 kids still. So your totals, they should add to that grand total, and they do. So that's kind of like a way to check yourself. All right, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions like what percent of boys get an allowance? What percent of girls get an allowance? So again, I can like break down this data by the two groups. So two-way tables are nice for that. Jot these notes here, like I said, fractions are is divided by of. That's how you get your percents going. You write it as a fraction first, and then you shift it and you write it as a percent. Again, we kind of talked about this yesterday, so let me kind of show you how you would do that. And that's all you're doing with these two-way tables, just writing percents. So first thing says, what percent of the boys get an allowance? Okay, this is what I'm talking about with like the wording of boys. Boys goes on the bottom. So, okay, focus on boys, go all the way to the total. There's 15. That's the bottom number. That's what I mean by that of right there. What comes after of goes on the bottom. What percent of boys get an allowance? Okay, so live in that boys column or boys row there. 10 of them get an allowance. So it's 10 over 15. Now, once you've got the fraction, you're going to divide that. 10 divided by 15 is 0.6666. All you have to do is move the decimal twice. So I'm not even going to like write the decimal to spare my notes, but if I move the decimal twice, that's 66.6-ish percent. So I'm going to go ahead and round that up. Let's just do whole numbers. So that is 67%. All right, so there's the first one. I'm gonna clear that out, make it less messy. So now it says, what percent of the girls? Okay, the of is girls. So I'm focusing on the girls information. There's 7 girls. So of girls, that goes on bottom, 7. And the ones that get an allowance, 3, goes on top. So now we're gonna do 3 Clear that out. 3 divided by 7.42. So move the decimal place 2 places to the right, and it'd be like 42.85. So I'm going to bump that up and say 43%. All right, the next one. What percentage of the total students? Okay, total students is 22. That's that grand total. Hopefully your notes are a little bit neater than mine. So what percentage of the total students don't get an allowance? Okay, how many kids don't get allowance? Erase that. So look at the no allowance. 9 kids, go to the total there. 9 kids don't get allowance. So I'm going to do 9 divided by 22. Move the decimal 2 places to the right. It'd be 40.9. So I'm going to bump that up and say 41. It becomes a little redundant, guys. It's the same thing like every time. All right, last one on this screen for me, and then I'll do the bottom and we'll finish off the front. So what percentage of the people who get an allowance, that's your bottom number, of the people who get an allowance. So kids who get an allowance, total is 13. What percent of those kids are boys? There's 10 in that group. So I'm going to do 10 divided by 13, which is 76 or 0.769. So move the decimal 2 places. And that's 76.9. I'm going to say 77. I don't know how true this is. I'll have to ask you guys tomorrow if you get allowance or not. I have no idea anymore if kids get allowance. All right, let's go to the bottom, which for you, that's still on the front here, but it didn't fit all on one screen for me. So same information, last 3 questions, then we're done. What percentage of people who don't get an allowance? Okay, don't get allowance. So 9. Which one? How many are girls? 4. So you're going to do 4 divided by 9. 0.444, so move the decimal 2 places to the right, and that's 44.4, so we're going to keep that as 44%. All right, last 2. What percentage of the total students? So again, how many kids are in the class? Oh, there's 22. That goes on bottom. That's your of. Girls who get an allowance. Be careful. Girls who get an allowance. That's 3. There were 3 girls who got allowance. So 3 divided by, my 2%'s for me here. 3 divided by 22, move it twice, 13.6. So I'm going to bump it up and say 14% of the girls. 14% of total students that are girls get an allowance. All right, last one. Clear that out. All right, what percentage of the total students, 22 kids, well, what percent are boys? Okay, well, boys, there's 15. We're not really even caring about the allowance. What percent of my 5th period class is boys? This is a true statistic here. 15 out of the 22. That's a lot. 68% of the kids in that class are boys. All right, so that's kind of finishing off 2-way tables. Obviously, we'll review these all before the test shows up. But make sure you get all this written down. And now you're going to go into your practice packet and you're going to try the lesson 5 worksheet there. Don't worry about the back. I know we didn't finish the back of this. We'll talk more about 2-way tables, just a different practice assignment when I see you guys next. All right, have a great day.